Friedrich Hecker spent 30 years building what he thought was a safe life. Government bonds, a pension, a savings account at a reputable Berlin bank. Everything denominated in marks, everything considered responsible, everything considered safe. By November 1923, it was all worth less than a cup of coffee. 40 miles outside the city, a wheat farmer with no education, no financial sophistication, village landscape, and no connections to the banking system was richer than he had ever been in his life. His grain was worth more every single day. People were trading grand pianos, fur coats, and family silver just to get their hands on a bag of flour. Same crisis, same country, same year. 2 lives, 2 paths, and completely opposite outcomes. And the thing that separated them had nothing to do with luck, timing, or intelligence. It had everything to do with what they held. This is a story about the things that survive when money dies. And if you think it's ancient history, that it couldn't happen today, I'd consider this. Every single fiat currency ever created has either collapsed entirely or lost the vast majority of its purchasing power. Everyone. The US dollar has lost over 96% of its purchasing power since 1913. We are not outside this pattern, we are inside it. And across 4,000 years of recorded history, through the collapse of Rome, revolutionary France, Weimar Germany, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and dozens of crises in between, the same 6 categories of assets keep showing up on the right side of the ledger. The assets change their names, they never change their nature. So what are they, and why do they keep working when everything else fails? The first is the oldest one, land. Not land as a line item on a portfolio spreadsheet. Productive land. The kind that grows food, holds minerals, or sits on water. When currencies collapse, the economy does not stop. People still eat. They still need shelter, fuel, raw materials, and whoever controls the source of those things holds real power, regardless of what is happening to the money. In Weimar Germany, farmers who owned their land outright became the new aristocracy almost overnight. A pig farmer could trade a single hog for a grand piano that once cost a banker 3 months' salary. That is not a metaphor. That is from the historical record. In Zimbabwe's collapse in 2008, the exact same pattern played out. Farmers with productive land and livestock had something people would trade anything for. Urban workers with savings accounts denominated in Zimbabwean dollars had nothing. The reason is straightforward. Land produces things that have value independent of any currency. A bushel of wheat feeds a family whether the dollar is worth 100 cents or half a cent. That independence from the monetary system is what makes land the oldest crisis-proof asset in human history. The second asset is gold. And before you switch off, this is not about gold bugs or conspiracy theories. This is about math and about how human beings actually behave under pressure. When a currency fails, an entire society needs something to use as money, not eventually, immediately. And for thousands of years, the thing humans default to is gold, not because it is magical, because it is recognizable, divisible, portable, and critically, no government can print more of it. During the French Revolution, the government issued paper currency called assignats, backed by seized church land. For a while, people trusted them. Then the government printed more and more. Within 5 years, assignats had lost over 99% of their value. The people who had already converted their paper into gold kept everything. The people who waited kept nothing. The same pattern played out in Argentina in the 80s. Then it was Russia in the 90s, facing extreme hyperinflation. Venezuela in the 2010s. Gold does not make you rich in stable times. It makes you solvent when everyone else is broke. That is a completely different function, and it is why central banks, the very institutions that print paper money, death to paper money, hold more gold today than at any point in the last 30 years. They know something. Pay attention to what they do, not what they say. The third asset is harder to see, but it might be the most powerful one. Businesses with pricing power. Not every business survives a crisis. Most do not. But there is a specific type that not only survives, it actually gets stronger. These are businesses that sell things people cannot stop buying, and that can raise prices as fast as the currency is falling. Think about what that means in practice. If you manufacture luxury handbags and a currency crisis hits, your customers disappear. But if you produce cooking oil, electricity, medicine, or fuel, demand does not drop. It cannot drop. People have no alternative. In Brazil, during the chronic inflation of the 80s, which ran at thousands of percent per year, supermarket chains were repricing their shelves multiple times a day. The companies that produced essential goods maintained their real margins throughout. The companies that could not reprice fast enough, those locked into long-term contracts at fixed prices, got wiped out entirely. The businesses that survive are the ones that can pass costs to consumers instantly, because those consumers have nowhere else to go. That structural reality determines who keeps their purchasing power and who loses it. The fourth asset is the one that separates the wealthy from the middle class in almost every currency crisis in modern history. The fourth asset is foreign currency. When your own currency is collapsing, holding claims denominated in someone else's stable money is the difference between watching the crisis from the outside and being consumed by it. In Latin America during the 1980s debt crisis, the pattern was textbook. Wealthy families had dollar accounts in Miami, real estate in New York, holdings in Swiss francs. When local currencies collapsed across Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina, their wealth was untouched. When local currencies collapsed across Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina, their wealth was untouched. Meanwhile, a schoolteacher in Buenos Aires who had diligently saved for 30 years in peso-denominated accounts lost essentially everything. Not most of it, essentially all of it. The mechanism is brutally simple. If your wealth is denominated in the currency that is failing, your wealth fails with it. If it is denominated in something else, you watch the crisis from the outside. This is also why capital controls, governments restricting how much money you can move abroad, are almost always one of the first signs that a crisis is accelerating. When the government starts locking the exits, it is because people are already trying to leave. The fifth asset is real estate, but not the way most people think about it. In a currency crisis, real estate does not protect you because numbers on a screen go up. It protects you because a building is a physical object that people need, and its replacement cost rises alongside everything else. You cannot print an apartment building. You cannot inflate away the concrete, the steel, the labor it took to construct it. In Weimar Germany, apartment owners in Berlin watched the nominal value of their buildings skyrocket into the billions of marks. Those numbers were meaningless. But here is what mattered. When the crisis ended and a new currency was established, those buildings were still standing, still collecting rent, still worth real purchasing power. The people who had held marks in a bank account came out with nothing. The people who had held buildings came out whole. The same thing happened in post-Soviet Russia in the early 90s. As the ruble disintegrated, apartment owners in Moscow discovered that their real estate, which many had received for almost nothing during privatization, was suddenly the most valuable thing they owned. Everything denominated in rubles was gone. The walls and the roof remained. Everything denominated in rubles was gone. The walls and the roof remained. Real estate works in a crisis for the same reason land works. It exists outside the currency system. You can change the currency. You cannot change the fact that people need somewhere to live. The sixth asset is the one almost nobody talks about: skills. In Hungary's 1946 hyperinflation, the most extreme ever recorded, where prices doubled every 15 hours, factory workers demanded daily wage adjustments and got them. Government employees on fixed salaries were wiped out. But a skilled plumber, a skilled electrician, a doctor, a mechanic, anyone who could set their own price for each job they completed, ate. This is not a motivational point about investing in yourself. It is a hard economic reality. When currency breaks down, the economy reverts to something closer to barter. And in a barter economy, the person who can fix your pipes, treat your illness, or repair your car has more negotiating power than someone holding a government bond worth less than the paper it's printed on. Skills are the only crisis-proof asset on this list that requires zero capital to acquire. They cannot be confiscated. They cannot be inflated away. They cannot be taxed into worthlessness, and they go with you wherever you go. And yet they are the one almost everyone overlooks. 6 assets, 6 categories, every single crisis across 4,000 years of recorded history. Productive land, gold, businesses with pricing power, foreign currency, real estate, essential skills. And in every single case, without exception, the people who were destroyed were the ones holding what financial advisors call the safe assets. Savings accounts, government bonds, pensions, fixed income instruments. Safe, right up until they are not. The uncomfortable truth is that monetary stability is not the default state of human civilization. It is the exception. Most currencies in history have eventually failed or been dramatically devalued. The dollar has lost over 96% of its purchasing power since the Federal Reserve was created. That is not a collapse, that is a slow erosion. But the direction is the same one that precedes every major crisis in the historical record. None of this is a prediction. Nobody knows when the next crisis will hit, how fast it will move, or which country it will start in. But the pattern of what survives and what does not, that pattern is 4,000 years old, and it has never been wrong. The question is not whether you believe a crisis is coming. The question is whether the things you hold right now are the things that have historically made it to the other side. Because when the next one comes, and if history says anything, it says there will be a next one, it will not matter what you knew. It will only matter what you held. If this changed the way you think about what you own, subscribe. I break these patterns down every single week. And tell me in the comments, which of these 6 assets do you actually hold right now? I want to know. I will see you in the next one.